In this video, we're talking all about Star Tours, some updates coming to Star Tours with Ahsoka, Mando, all that good stuff. We're also talking about Bob Iger's comments recently at that Morgan Stanley event regarding the parks. We'll talk about that. We have a lot to dive into today. We got Slimer in the house today joining us up next on OG 55. 55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to this episode of OG 55. We're talking Star Tours, we're talking Bob Iger and the parks, all that good stuff. But before we do, I want to introduce my fantastic panel. We got Slimer in the house once again. Slimer, thank you so much for joining us, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me back on. It's been a while.
Yeah. If you could remind everybody where they could find you on social media, sir.
Yeah, you guys can find me on X at SlimeSquare84, and on YouTube you can find me right here on Orange Grove 55.
There we go. Absolutely. And right over here we got the Italiano. We got the Joe Pesci of Disney YouTube. Right here. George, if you can let everybody know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info. And yes, I am the Joe Pesci of social media, especially what's been going on with Twitter nowadays. You kind of have to become a Joe Pesci to kind of get through your day.
Yeah, exactly. I'm telling you, man, X has become something else. Well, it's actually always been a problem, to be honest, but yeah, it's something else. I don't know if I'm just getting older and I just can't handle it like I used to, or I don't know. I'm just kind of done, you know? But yeah, first topic at hand, we got Star Tours. Star Tours at Disneyland and Disney World to add Mandalorian, Andor, and Ahsoka plots. The Star Wars ride will add characters and worlds featured in the Disney Plus shows beginning next month. Real quick here it says Star Tours, the adventures continue. The Star Wars themed attraction with locations at Disneyland and Disney World and Disneyland Paris will add characters and locations from the Disney Plus shows Mando, Ahsoka, and Andor beginning April 5th. That will include urgent transmissions from characters like Ahsoka, Tano, Cassian Andor, Din Djarin, and Grogu during the ride, with the planet Peridia from Ahsoka also joining the attraction. So, Slimer, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on this, man? They're updating Star Tours yet again with these Disney Plus shows. Good idea, bad idea?
I don't think it's enough, really. I don't think that this is the this isn't the upgrade to Star Wars that you're looking for.
Yeah,
I think that this is it's a little too late. I think if they introduced this perhaps when Ahsoka was premiering or when Mandalorian season 3 was premiering, that would have been the time to do this. So this rollout is a little late. It's kind of smack dab in the middle of season 1 and 2 of Ahsoka and the Grogu and Mandalorian movie coming out. I don't know how much excitement that's going to generate. To me, this seems more like a really cost effective way of trying to bump that standby line over there from 10 minutes on average to like 20 minutes on average. They've already tried this. This is something that they've tried to do. Now, had they made the announcement that there was new adventures on Smuggler's Run, that I would have gotten excited about. But this really doesn't do it for me. This is very. I'm not excited. I love the ride. Don't get me wrong. Star Tours is a classic ride. But this does not inject the excitement into Hollywood studios that it should have. And the money should have went towards Smuggler's Run.
100% agree with you on that. 100% agree with you on that. You could have had, they need to update Smuggler's Run. I'm kind of getting tired of, and look, these are great. Like, I like these franchises. I liked all 3 of these shows. I think Grogu is just money in the bag. But the thing is like, you're right though. They're constantly going to the Star Tours thing and updating Star Tours. When we were promised when Galaxy's Edge opened that we were going to get new adventures and new missions for Smuggler's Run. Now, I know they utilize, the tech on Smuggler's Run is a lot harder to update. I think what's it called? The Unreal Engine, I believe, or something to that effect. And it's a lot harder to upgrade.
Right.
understand that, but I wish they would take a little time and do that. I think you're right, Slimer. They would get much more interest in something like that. I mean, this is another Star Tours thing, and it's they do it pretty often with this attraction. I don't know. Like I said, it's not a bad idea necessarily, but it's just not something that I'm like, jumping out to go check out right away. What are your thoughts, George?
For me, this was definitely salt into the wound for Galaxy's Edge, for sure. It's like they spent all this time and money on Galaxy's Edge to give us the ultimate Star Wars adventure, but yet at the same time, all these new characters, all these new locations and storylines are going into Star Tours, as you guys said. Yet again, it just feels like this ride is the scapegoat, and I feel like that's even why Disneyland isn't even considering on removing Star Tours from Tomorrowland when they have a complete Star Wars lands in the same park that's just across the way, so to speak. And it's a bit frustrating that it's like they're using this as I said, the scapegoat. It's like a cop-out to just kind of put new material in an old ride that really isn't, let's be honest, it's not doing so hot, really. I mean, you're looking at like a 10-15 minute wait at the longest. I remember when Slimer and I was there, it was basically a walk-on. It said 5 minutes, but we didn't even stop. It was like literally walk in, grab your 3D glasses, and then they place you in your location where you're going to be boarded from. And it's like, how relevant really is Star Tours anymore? It was great, in the 80s and the 90s. It was, it was the biggest thing, and it's like, but now it's just, the ride system is completely, there's really nothing you could do for it, really. It is what it is. It's an outdated simulator ride, which we then have with Smuggler's Run that is not getting any love. And quite frankly, it's like Smuggler's Run is okay, but I mean, you can't even really enjoy the ride even with that, because you're, depending on what position you're in, you're looking to the side, and pressing buttons, and then you can't really focus on anything anyway. So
for Mandalorian takes place, if I'm not mistaken, after Return of the Jedi, correct? On the timeline.
Yeah,
correct.
So, what you could do, if you really want to inject some serious interest, you want to do like a double whammy, you could update Smuggler's Run and have, instead of Hondo kind of talking in your ear, you can have Han Solo, because he was around at that time. And while you're piloting a Falcon with Han Solo kind of guiding you, you come across Mando and Grogu. So you're hitting all the check boxes in the best way. You're getting the Han, which everyone loves Han. Come on, Harrison Ford. And then you got little Grogu and stuff, which is money too. That would be hugely popular on Smuggler's Run.
And that was a major critique for Smuggler's Run, is with the storyline. When people were going in, they're like, who's Hondo? Like, who is this character? Like, what relevance does he have to the storyline? It's, no one can relate to him because nobody knows who he is.
Yeah, you don't know Star Wars character Hondo, fan favorite. Like, you're not aware who he is. Well, it's like, well, you'll know now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He's, Hondo is he's more of I think the younger kids are more familiar with him.
Hondo, excuse me, I said Hondo. See, shows how much I really care.
Yeah. No, he is. He caters more to the younger crowd, I think, because of the animated series and stuff. And a lot of those animated shows are really good. I enjoyed Rebels and stuff like that, but the normies aren't so versed in that Filoni verse. You know what I'm saying? If you had a version of Smuggler's Run where it was Han Solo, everybody, your grandma would know who that is. You know what I'm saying? And then you come across little Grogu and things like that. That's just like money on the table.
See, I feel like where they, I don't want to use this word, but I'm going to use it anyway, failed with Star Wars in the park, so to speak, is rather than just create a decent storyline for each individual attractions, they did this one big storyline that's interconnected with the land itself. And it's like, nobody cares about that. No one wants to role play. No one wants to do, they just literally want to go into and enjoy a kick-ass Star Wars land. You know, it's like when they
Right.
did Star Wars weekends at Hollywood Studios, nobody cared. There was no storyline. They had all the characters out at once, no matter what timeline they were in. That's all the people cared about. I just felt like they treated Galaxy's Edge as if it was a film set rather than a themed land
Well,
in a theme park.
Yeah, you have to respect a certain. You have to give and respect the guest autonomy. Guests want autonomy when they go to these lands and these attractions, and if you take it away from them or you give them guide rails and say, "Hey, no, you gotta, like in order to experience this properly, you have to be within these guide rails to experience it the right way, the way we designed it for you to experience it." Like that doesn't work. Look at the Galactic Star Cruiser. It failed miserably. Fell
right.
fell on its face, and they're trying to do the same thing with Galaxy's Edge by having this overarching story over the whole land, as opposed to just letting the fans create their own events, create their own group meetups like they do now. They would come with the lightsabers and they do the photo ops and things like that. That level of autonomy is what fans want. They want a place that they can go play, but they don't want to be dictated what to do. But you're right, though. This is like a slap in the face to Disney fans. And look, I'm not one of these people that say Disney doesn't do enough. I'm the opposite. Go on to Cosmic Rewind on YouTube, and he posted a list of things that they brought to Walt Disney World over the last 10 years, and I added to that list. I'm not one of these people that are just like, what have you done for me lately? But at the same time, though, if the fans have been saying, hey, bring something new to Smuggler's Run for the last couple of years, but then you go, hey, no, we're going to bring it to Star Tours instead. I mean, like Star Tours by now, for me, it feels like Madonna with the with the plastic surgeries. Like she's had enough of them already. All right, let's get Madonna off of Twitter here. You know what I mean? Plastic surgeries for Madonna.
That's exactly what. That's a great analogy, Slimer. That's exactly what it is. And I really thought when they announced Galaxy's Edge, we were going to move away from the Star Tours era. I thought this was going to be dead attraction walking. Essentially, we were going to get rid of it. Phase it out. And not only have they not phased it out, they've almost doubled and tripled down on it since Galaxy's Edge opened. And you're absolutely right too, Slimer. When it comes to fans want autonomy. When I go on the Disney cruise, I just want to do my thing. I want to chill on the balcony, on the little veranda, watch the water, chill out. The one thing that I didn't like about the concept of the Galactic Star Cruiser was all that LARPing or whatever they call it, where you go on these missions and stuff. Like, I don't want to do all that. Like, I want to have a vacation where I'm chilling, I don't want to go to like this kind of like galactic Renaissance fair. It's just not my thing. I think a lot of people aren't really into that.
Especially for $6,000.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And it just...
and they're 6,000.
Yeah, it's outrageous. And look how long it lasted. Like, barely even a year, So, and that's the thing. If you were to inject Galaxy's Edge with some of this love, if you were to put Mando and Ahsoka and all these great characters in Smuggler's Run, I'm telling you, I mean, it would generate a huge amount of hype, and for some reason they keep funneling it into the Star Tours. It's got to be because it's more of an issue upgrading the Smuggler's Run technology, from what I'm understanding. But I mean, come on! I mean, eventually you got to do it. You promised the fans that you were going to do that. That was the selling point for that attraction. Go ahead, George.
And that's an issue for me too, that they're using that kind of as somewhat of an excuse to put it in Star Tours, because if you're going to use that technology in the first place, chances are you're going to have to upgrade it sooner or later. So you kind of already have to have that in mind,
right?
To say, hey, you know what, if we're going to update or upgrade or change this or what have you, it's going to have to be something kind of doable. And nothing against Joe Rohde. He's a badass. He's one of my top tier favorite Imagineers. But in a sense, that's kind of where they dropped the ball with Expedition Everest, because they built this massive, very technological, unique audio animatronic of the Yeti,
right?
But of how they it was intricate within the mountain itself and the platform and the track. It's like, okay, well, if a problem arises, what do? You can't do absolutely anything unless you crack open the mountain. So it's like you have to kind of, as much as you don't want to think negative, sometimes you have to think negative when you're in the process of building this stuff, because it's like, okay, well, what happens if X, Y, and Z happens? Okay, so we have to kind of make a plan for B, C, and D to fix X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, and I commend Disney on a positive note with the Star Tours move. I commend Disney for making the best use of their flywheel. You want to do that. You want to have that integration, that cross-pollination between your Disney Plus shows and the parks. And that's really what Walt Disney pioneered. You know, I mean, with these parks is that flywheel. You know, when they built Disneyland, he purposely named Sleeping Beauty's castle Sleeping Beauty to promote the upcoming film. I mean, this is a thing that Walt Disney pioneered. You know, Universal borrows a lot of that synergistic elements that Walt Disney pioneered. Even they use that. All these.
I just wish that they would utilize that those IPs and those talent for Galaxy's Edge, because it doesn't have enough as it is.
No, absolutely. The concept of the synergy is good, but it's misdirected.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Absolutely.
put it in the new land, like that the $1 billion land you just spent $1 billion on. Yeah, put it in that. Not the attraction from the mid '80s. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It really doesn't. But we got a lot more park news. We got Bob Iger here. Here we go, Mr. Sexy Bob. This is from Scott Gustin. So it says here, during the Morgan Stanley conference, Disney CEO Bob Iger said the company, quote, could actually build 7 new full lands if we wanted to, okay, around the world, end quote. He also said they have enough land to expand Disneyland Resort. Now, mind you, Disneyland Resort, not Disneyland Park. Some fans were getting confused with that.
I was one of them.
Well, yeah, but no, a lot of people were, though. It wasn't just you, but Disneyland Resort by more than 50%. Now, Scott Gustin did add a clarification today saying when Iger said Disney could build 7 new lands, he was actually referencing a 2023 company statement that said Disney has, quote, over 1,000 acres of land for possible future development across its existing sites, the equivalent of about 7 new Disneyland parks. So here's the thing. I'll kind of kick this off. Like, I kind of understood what he was saying the first time, but a lot of people did misunderstand him, and I understand that. It was kind of weirdly worded, understand. I'm kind of on the fence with this, right? Because he said they could build 7 new lands if they wanted to. And a lot of fans were kind of jumping on this, like, well, what do you mean if you wanted to? Just do it. Yes, look, if you're a millionaire, for example, to have like a little bit of analogy here, if you're a millionaire and you could afford 10 homes, it doesn't mean that you just mindlessly buy 10 homes now because you can. Like, why not, right? Like, I think what Iger's trying to say here is that there's growth potential on these properties. And if we wanted to, we can expand out, right? So I get the fan complaints. I get it. Like, we're frustrated with the what ifs, the maybes, all that stuff. But I also see Iger's case here where he's talking to the investment community more or less, not the fandom. And he's saying, look, there's growth potential at these properties. And when we're ready, we can do this. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where I stand with it. But what are your thoughts on that, George? And then I'll go to Slimer.
So for me, I can kind of see it both ways. Now, I do feel on the fan side as is because we were talking prior to recording, you know, like this is more for like the investor side, you know, the corporate side, you know, the suit and tie kind of people, not for us fans. But I think, which at that aspect I understand. But then when it comes out to the public eye and we do see it and read it as fans, because we are so used to hearing those key words for so many years, the ifs, the cans, the maybes, I think, not to be mistaken for our contributor of the channel, Maybe, shout out to Maybe,
Yes,
that it doesn't help much that even when he is speaking to the investors, it's like, okay, here come these words again. We're hearing it with everything. It's like, we get it. We know you could do it. You can do it. It's a possibility. It's an if. It's a maybe. But it's like, what are you actually going to do? And I think for us as fans, that's what the frustration is.
And it is. And I understand that. And it's not even really Bob Iger's fault on that. It's Daddy Josh's he kind of set this up where we've had, 2 or 3 conventions now with the what ifs and the maybes. And now Iger comes in with another, we could do this. And now fans are like burnt out on the what if. So like it's kind of a Daddy Josh thing a little bit, but I understand where fans are coming from. It's like, okay, now we have Iger saying this stuff. It's super frustrating. What are your thoughts on this, Slimer?
Yeah, I mean, my sentiments echo exactly what you and George had just stated, which is that on one hand, there seems that Disney is not doing a good enough job to separate um, the semantics, the syntax between the investors, the suits, and the fan base. And this just goes to show that. The other thing too I'd like to point out is how many fans are actually listening to Morgan Stanley teleconferences about the growth potential of the Disneyland parks moving forward. It's a very small community, and most of them wouldn't have known what was going to be said unless someone like Scott Gustin posted about it, because good luck trying to find this thing on the internet, the full thing. Um, so I think that fans are so quick to react to what Bob Iger says, they don't stop to think about what it is that he's saying and who he's saying it to. And they just want to react, right? And the Disney community so far lately has been very reactionary. So I think a little bit of blame can go to everybody. You can blame Disney for not delineating the language between the investors and the fans by using the blue sky language. That's got to go. Disney, I've echoed it on this channel a lot of times. Disney needs to use a very direct, very matter of fact approach. The way that Universal Studios does, it's very effective. It leaves no gray areas, no questions. And a lot of times, people like Alicia Stellar, she'll break the news before Universal even makes the announcement. Yeah. If Disney can get into that kind of a spot, it's going to be great for them, because there's no question as to what's coming and when it's coming. At the same time, though, Disney fans, like, if this is a Morgan Stanley teleconference, why do you think they're talking to you? They're not. I mean, unless you're a shareholder. If you're a shareholder, okay, I get it. If you have Disney stocks, got it. I'm not talking to you. But for everybody else, it's like, like, why don't you do it then? It's like, come on. Like you said, like, just because you're a millionaire doesn't mean you go out and buy 10 homes just because you can.
Right.
They're looking at long-term investments. The shareholders, the investors, they want long-term growth predictability in their theme park, their theme park flywheel of the company. They're 7 Disneylands. This is a 30 to 50 year game.
Exactly.
That Bob Iger's thinking here. And I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about 20th Century Fox in a future podcast. But again, the purchase of 20th Century Fox, okay, we're not seeing results now. I'm telling you, at the end of the day, when you sit and look at what they got for $40 billion for 20th Century, they got a deal when you really break it down to the properties they got and how much revenue they're going to generate just for the studios alone.
And you're right. And you're right. It was about 40 or 50 billion because they did sell off. And a lot of people don't mention this. I'm glad you brought this up, Slimer. They actually sold off a lot of the Fox Sports assets because they had to, right, due to regulatory concern, monopoly issues, all that stuff. So yes, the initial price tag was like 70 billion, but after they sold the Fox Sports stuff, it was like 40 or 50 billion, right?
Yeah.
But you're right. This is a long game with Fox, right? And it's like with Fox, it's like and I think our buddy Hedge mentioned this today on Twitter as well, where it's like, look, we already heard yesterday that Disney wants to build another Pandora or some version of Pandora at Anaheim. And Iger even said we can build another one of these overseas, or we can build a couple of these overseas. Look at the investment, the money that is going to bring in alone with these Pandoras in Anaheim and overseas. Then we're going to talk a little bit about it today, but like the X-Men stuff and the Deadpool stuff that Disney acquired when they got Fox. And like that stuff, obviously, it's not gonna, you're not gonna hit 40 billion off of X-Men movies. I understand that, but it's a big part of the equation. This Deadpool movies has a lot of energy behind, a lot of hype. This movie's gonna do very well.
Yeah, if I can, let me just break down some of the numbers, guys. I mean, So the X-Men movies for 20th Century Fox, there was 13 movies from 2000, the original X-Men movie, all the way to Deadpool 2018. Okay. 20th Century Fox has grossed over $6 billion just on X-Men. That doesn't count Fantastic Four. That doesn't count any of the the spinoffs or anything like that. That's just X-Men, Deadpool. $6 billion. With the purchase of 20th Century Fox, they're getting Fantastic Four. They're getting Deadpool. They're getting X-Men. Deadpool is on its way to cross the $2 billion mark just on that property alone. Okay, Fantastic Four, if it's a good movie with Pedro Pascal, is going to cross $1 billion, $1.5 billion easy. All right. That's $2 to $3 billion right off of those two properties right there on a $40 billion purchase. And they're going to do it in a fraction of the time that it took 20th Century Fox because the foundation has already been laid over the last 13 years, 20 years, 20 years, actually. I'm sorry.
Exactly, Simon. Well said. And that's not even including the possible X-Men stuff they might add into the parks.
And the X-Men movies that are not Deadpool.
And this is what the frustrating thing is for me when you hear people like on social media, they're like saying, okay, well, you have all this land. Okay, well, you could put in this, you could put in that, fill it all in, expand out. Well, here's the thing. If just for an example, like with Disneyland Forward, that's going to be a 30+ year investment into expanding the resort. If you go and you utilize all of that land all at once, and you have no more land yet left, with all the IPs that you currently have now, okay, so what happens if down the road, just to say in 10 years, you strike lightning in a bottle again with another film franchise that'll be even bigger than Frozen? And it's like, well, can't do nothing about it now. We just utilized all our land up. It's like people are saying about Tron possibly coming to Disneyland, but everyone's thinking, oh yeah, we're going to get a West Coast Tron light cycle. Not necessarily. They're in the process of making Tron 3. We don't know what's all involved with that. So that could be a completely, totally different attraction or land itself, if Tron 3 does very well. So I wish, in a sense, that the community would kind of like just let Disney do its thing and like take a breath and breathe and stretch out. Because honestly, even just to the parks, there have been years where nothing was touched in the parks as far as adding something new. I don't know like where we crossed the line where it's like, okay, we have to have something new every single year. Like to be added into the park. Like there was touch-ups and updates, but like nothing major. There was years where it was just like you just enjoy the park for what it is.
Well, I have a controversial take, and I think a lot of people will probably disagree with me on this. And I'm going to be self-aware because I think I'm part of this too, because I am a local. At Slimer, you're a local. Slimer and I, we don't go. I don't think we don't go as much as a lot of people do, though, like locals and stuff. But I think when it comes to these like key holders right here, like I'll say for Anaheim, right? You have a segment of the fandom who's going to these parks sometimes 3, 4, 5, even 6, 7 days a week. Okay. And the dopamine hit isn't like it was the first time. Right? It's not working anymore. I'm not getting the same hit that I got when I went the first time. So it's this constant need for the new supply.
Try a different vein.
Different vein, I guess, right? And it's like I think that's part of the equation where it's like it's Disney's fault. I don't feel the magic like I did 100 visits ago. It must be because they didn't add a new thing. It's like, well, no. I think a lot of it too. I think as fans we have to take have a little bit of awareness here, and I'm part of the equation. Absolutely, I'm not pushing this on everybody else. I go once or twice a month. That's a lot. A lot of normies think that's excessive, but I think we need to understand that when you go a lot, like I said, that dopamine hit, that magic isn't going to hit the same. And so you're like, oh, well, it doesn't feel the same like it did when I went like back in the day. Well, yeah, because you're going so much.
Well, and if I could actually add on to that too, OG, where you don't necessarily go, as much as like a typical local does, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a week, but it's even when you do go, because I've gone with you many times to the parks, you have this approach where it's like you don't have to ride anything. You can just walk around, sit on a bench, people watch. We went to the Grand Californian, had a couple drinks, had a lunch. We just kind of just did our own pace, where it's like some of these locals have like this mentality of going in where it's like, okay, even though I was here for like the 10th time this week, I still have to hit everything. Well, it's like, okay. And then it's like, okay, well, I rode Big Thunder 25 times this week. I rode, Haunted Mansion 17 times this week. It's like, okay, so like, where is that wow factor? I don't know why. I don't get it. Well, maybe because you've been going on it so many times.
Yes, and each
you need a new drug.
You need a new hit, you know, and that's the thing. It's like, and that's fine. People can do what they want to do. I'm not saying like anyone needs to, you know.
But the reason why they're getting that effect, that's the reason why.
Exactly. Don't be surprised if you're going 4 times a week. Don't be surprised if the place doesn't feel the way it did when you weren't going 4 days a week. That's all I'm saying. It's gonna hit
or when
different.
you were 6 years old.
Exactly. Or when you were 6 years old. Exactly. And I think that's where a lot of this kind of like, oh, I need a new ride, I need a new thing, because it's like they need that new adrenaline boost, that new dopamine hit, and it's just and that's a big thing too. It gets into this whole conversation about the local pass holder culture and all this other stuff, which is another video for sure. But yeah, I think that's kind of what this is, Slimer, what you were saying, and George, where it's like there's this expectation to just have a constant flow of new stuff. I think it's a big part of it.
Yeah,
I think it's a big part of it.
Because even like with Disneyland Forward right now, people are expecting that once this gets greenlit, we're going to get 5 new lands, we're going to get 20 plus new attractions. Yeah, you are, but it's going to be in a span of 30 years. You know, you're not going to get everything all at once.
Yeah.
You know, Disney's going to pace themselves, so it can always be new and refreshed. Because again, if you do everything at once, you know, it's going to be a one and done. It's like you'll enjoy it, but then it's like now it's off to, okay, what do we do now? You know,
Yeah.
Right?
True.
Yeah, you don't want to blow all your like, you know, for example, if you're going to I don't even know, man. If you have $1,000, right? You don't want to blow all $1,000 on, you know, I don't know, like my mind is like, oh man.
Do you blow the $1,000 on one stripper, or do you blow it on 10 strippers? $100
Right.
each.
There we go. That's a great analogy, right? You walk into a strip club, right? You see one girl, you're like, oh man, she's really good looking. Okay, I got $1,000. We're gonna do $1,000 worth of lap dances.
First of all,
then you get out there like 4 hours later, right?
First of all, no stripper's worth $1,000.
Exactly.
Sorry, strippers. Don't
exactly. Then you get out of there and you're like, oh man, well, there's this other dancer who's even better looking, but I already spent all my money, right?
Yeah,
That's kind of my idea.
be careful, Slimer. She might get you with her 7-inch heel.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Yeah, you don't want to blow all of it. You don't want to waste all your space. And look at all the drama Disney's going through, all the hoops they have to jump through for this Disneyland Forward process, and fans want them to just like utilize all that land in like 5 years or something. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Can I also say there's a little bit of a cognitive dissonance too, because the Disney fan community on one end is cheering Bob Iger for finally embracing what the Disney community has been saying for a while now, ever since Infinity War, which is, hey, look, you guys have prioritized quantity over quality, which is why we're not going out to watch your movies. Reel it back a little bit, respect the material, be more selective about what you're green lighting, and as long as it's really, really good, we're gonna buy the tickets to go see the movies. So in one instance, the Disney community is like, yes, Bob Iger, finally. I like what you're saying in the investor meetings about this. This is the right direction to go. And everybody agrees this is the right direction to go. It's not controversial. But when it comes to the parks, everybody's like, more. We don't care about the quality. We just want it, and we want it now. And so there's double speak here. And I just want to point that out. Like, it's either one or the other. It's either quality or it's quantity. You either want 5 Frozen lands, or 5 Frozen lands are too much. We're either cloning attractions or we're making different attractions in different parks, so that way people can go and experience different things, like George points out. Pandora in Disneyland is not going to be cool because we already got one in Walt Disney World. Why don't we do something different? Why don't we see what comes out in Avatar 3? It might blow our minds. We don't know. Like, let things just happen naturally. I mean, it used to be, guys, I was thinking about this. Like, I used to get excited just riding Delta in Tomorrowland. You remember the Delta ride? Because I would go, like, when I was a kid, once a year, twice a year? Fuck yeah, let's go ride that damn Delta ride. You know what I mean? Now it's like, god damn. I get it. Like, I complained about the Star Tours the new themes earlier. I get it. Like, it's kind of a disease, like OG said, But at the end of the day, man, like, you gotta let these parks breathe a little bit. Like, go find a new drug. Go to Universal Studios. Go to Busch Gardens. Go to SeaWorld.
Yes, exactly.
Do something different.
It's a huge issue. It's a huge issue. Not a lot of people are talking about it, but I mean, that's really, look, and Disney, it doesn't absolve Disney of anything. It's just that I think as fans, we need to be aware of we need to look inward too, and how we're reacting to stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So it's fascinating.
Now,
Go ahead, Dorf.
no, really quick. The other statement that Iger made with the 50% with the Disneyland resort.
Right.
Now, was that with what's already? I doubt that's what's already within the land that they have. Is he referring to after the fact with Disneyland Forward?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, he says here. Let me see. He says here. He said, okay, we could actually build 7 new lands if we wanted to around the world. He also said they have enough land to expand Disneyland Resort by more than 50%. I'm assuming he doesn't really clarify, at least in this quote. I'm assuming that's the Disneyland Forward land that he's referring to.
Okay.
Yeah, I would assume that's that land. Because
So once like rezoning, once clearing out what they need to, that would free up 50%
more space.
more of space to use for the parks.
Right, for DCA and Disneyland, I'm assuming. Which is interesting. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it might even be a little bit more than that. I'm just eyeballing it because the Toy Story lot is 75 acres. I mean, if you want to build a park on that, that's already quite a bit. And then you're going to add the other acreage over there by the Simba lot and the Stitch lot. I don't know. It seems like more, but obviously Iger is more privy to the numbers. But yeah, it's a lot of space, though. It really, really is. You know, it's a lot of. I mean, 50%. That's a lot.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
so
a lot.
yeah, it's a huge amount. So we'll see. We'll absolutely see. Now, I also wanted to touch upon this real quick before we go today. Slimer, actually, I think you brought this to our attention. This is interesting right here. This is Bob Iger says that Deadpool and Wolverine will be one of the most successful Marvel Studios movies they've had in a long time. Now, Iger, you know, he's stuck his foot in his mouth a lot in recent years. Actually, ever since he kind of came back about a year and a half ago. But this is something that I think that he's spot on with. I mean, this movie, I see so much hype and energy behind this thing. What are your thoughts on this, Slimer? You think that this might be one of the biggest Marvel movies they've had in a long time? You would agree with him?
This is not controversial at all. I mean, name one Marvel movie that's made $1 billion in the last 2 to 3 years.
I think the only one would be Spider-Man: No Way Home. I think.
But that was Sony, wasn't it? Wasn't that distributed by Sony? Yeah. I mean, they didn't get 100% of the profits on that.
No.
So really, the only one with the 100% was Endgame, right? Because I don't think Wakanda. What was Wakanda Forever's numbers?
I think that made like $700 or $800 million, and then I think that Guardians of the Galaxy 3 also made like $700 or $800 million.
So Endgame would be the final one then.
Yep, Deadpool 2 made over $1 billion. That actually made a lot internationally.
Well,
and so did Deadpool 1.
As I said, for me, I'm still going to stand by my statement that I made like a month or two ago. I really truly think, I could be wrong, but I'm just going to throw it out there. I actually think that this film is going to be the first $1 billion domestically alone. I definitely feel like it's going to obviously cross over $1 billion, worldwide. Right. But I think honestly, this might be the very first U.S. domestic $1 billion film.
I don't think it'll do $1 billion, but I'll tell you this though. I think that what I would like to see Disney do is I would like to see them adopt a model where the superhero movies are like the guilty pleasure films. And like guilty pleasures you don't have all the time, right? Like that's why they call them guilty pleasures. You have them subtle, you kind of like have them between like your regular diet, right? But Marvel shouldn't be a regular diet IP. Like this should be the onesies and twosies, like 1 or 2 of these movies a year. We catch them, they're good, they're fun, they're ridiculous, like Ryan Reynolds here. But like that's it. Like, do we really need more than one? Like, let me ask you guys, do we need more than 1 to 2 Marvel movies a year? Like, do we need more than one?
I'd be fine with 1. If we got 2, then we got 2. But we don't need 4 or 5 Marvel movies like we've been getting, because it's like, again, the quality is just dipping.
It would be a little bit easier to digest more movies if there wasn't a connective universe. Because when you have a connected universe and you throw in 4 and 5 movies a year, you're kind of you're thrusting this upon your audience. You got to catch up.
Right.
You got to watch all these. It's like it's overwhelming for the audience. Now, if these were standalones, where it's more a la carte, that might be a little bit easier to kind of sell. But like when you have this when you have the cinematic universe and you're dropping this much content, I think the fan base gets overwhelmed. I'm a huge Marvel fan. I love the MCU. Even I was falling off. I was caught up for the longest time, and then after really once Disney Plus came, and there were all these movies and all these shows, it's like I just kind of like stopped. I don't have the time for all this, you know.
I think for me, anyways, and the reason why I'm still sticking to my comment is, if it was just going to be Deadpool 3, like how it was for 1 and 2, which would have done amazingly, but I think what could possibly push this over the edge is the fact that not only are you having the character of Wolverine in the picture, but you're having the classic Wolverine from the X-Men television series, and you're bringing back Hugh Jackman, who basically was Wolverine throughout, 20 years worth
20
of
plus years.
And also too, people are going to be dying to know that this is going to spearhead the next phase for Marvel. Like, what is it going to become of X-Men? What is it going to become for Fantastic Four? We're going to get all that by the start of this film.
And you know what? The reaction to Dune 2 actually leads me to believe that Hollywood wants real films to come back. I mean, people are really hungry for real movies. Look how good Shogun is doing right now. 9 million viewers on the premiere. It's like, dude, real movies with real sets that have really good stories, really good characters, really good music. They are really hungry because we've been getting nothing but trough food for the longest time. And part of it is Marvel's fault. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like the first 30 Marvel movies were really fucking good. And like we expected nothing but excellence, which is why we complained about Marvel for the last couple of years. But you can't always do that. Like that, it's not possible to sustain that level of excellence for superhero movies for so long. That's a once in a lifetime thing. It's probably never going to happen again.
Yep.
So it got bookended with Endgame. It should have probably taken a hiatus. It didn't. Okay, whatever. But going into this new year of movies, I think that people know, like now, they know that they can't just eat the dessert. Like, you know what I mean? Like just eating the dessert makes you sick. And you got to have nutritional food. And those good movies are that nutritional food, if you will.
Well, it depends on what the dessert is, too.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like you got to have a healthy balance of everything.
Exactly.
And this even means coming from how the studios are approaching this and what they're green lighting and what they're not. And if OG, I don't know if you wanted to get into like Bob Iger's comments on axing some movies and and do you guys want to get into that?
Let's talk about it. Absolutely. Yeah. So Bob Iger was saying, I don't have the quote up on screen right now, but basically saying, hey, look, you know what? We quietly have canceled a lot of projects behind the scenes because they just weren't cutting it. You know, they weren't up to the quality standard, and it's basically Iger was saying it's a tough decision, you know, because of the creatives involved and the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that go into a lot of these projects, or all these projects really. Right. But they had to cut a lot of this stuff because it just wasn't up to the standard. And this is tough, you know. And look, I actually, our friend Josh from Den of Nerds actually made a tweet, I think it was yesterday or today, about it, and he was like, yeah, this is good. I would agree with him on that. I mean, I think it's a good move. I mean, look, you know, I think one of the big issues that Marvel especially has been facing the past few years, we just talked about it, is too much. And it was like just churning out content, you know, and the quality has started to dip. I'd rather have less stuff, but when that stuff comes out, it's a 9 out of a 10. It's a 10 out of a 10. So this quote from Bob Iger actually really encouraged me. What are your thoughts on that, Slimer? How do you feel about this? About them kind of like quietly kind of shelving stuff that they don't feel is really up to par?
Look, it's a move that required leadership, and that's a leadership decision. Not only that, but they just hired David Greenbaum, and him and David Greenbaum have to be aligned. They didn't bring in David Greenbaum to make more live action remakes. I can tell you that. That is not Disney's initiative moving forward. They want to go back to making high quality content that, you know, if they only come out with 2 really good movies, then so be it. Like the standard's the standard. Somewhere along the lines they brought the standard down here, and that's when they started. The Disney movies started becoming like a trough, and you got what you got. But if they only make 3 good movies a year or 2 good movies a year, but they're A's, hey, that's the standard. That's the Disney standard. We're going to uphold it. But I think it's really important that they made this decision. There's a lot more studios making this decision now. We saw this with Warner Brothers. They did it a lot more publicly, and I feel like they shouldn't have. So time will definitely tell us which movies they've axed. And they probably axed some that happened before any sort of like real meaningful production, in pre-production. That's okay too. That's even better. But yeah, I mean, look, man, there's quite a few movies that they've already greenlit and they're already halfway through production. I don't even think the fan community is even going to turn out in droves to go see. I mean, I don't want to say that I hope that Snow White doesn't come out, but I mean, come on, like, would anybody really be mad if Snow White got axed at this point? It's like, no, not really. No. We're so far beyond that. What do you think, George?
Well, for me, I have the same mentality that I do for film and television as I do the parks. I feel like that if you're going to half-ass something, I'd rather you not do it at all. I'd rather have the quality over the quantity anytime. And that's just going back to what we were talking about. Yeah, you could shoehorn in 50 attractions in one time at any one of these parks, but they're all full of crap. It's like they're not. You get 50 magic carpets of Aladdin, and it's like as opposed to one awesome, fantastic ride like Rise of the Resistance or Flight of Passage. It's like I would rather have that one over the 50. It's the same as like with film and television. Hey, if it takes only 1 to 2 Marvel films a year, if it only takes 1 Star Wars film every 12 years. Which actually that's what we're getting anyway, but then you know what, so be it. But you know what, I really would though, if it was like a high quality film, and if that's how long it takes for them to do that, then so be it.
Yeah. And Slimer, you brought up David Greenbaum. I mean, yeah, he actually had a quote recently saying that we're looking at the film slate, right, and we're kind of posing the question, does this film need to be made? And to your point, Slimer, I think that was a direct shot at a lot of these live action remakes.
100%.
Right? Does this film need to be made? Do we need a live action version of every animated movie ever? Why are we remaking the movie we've already made? And I think
I want to see a live action version of the live action version Beauty and the Beast.
Right, exactly. A live action of the live action, yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think that was a direct shot at those live action remakes. And this guy, he's from Searchlight. Okay, the content over there is amazing, and the Fox people actually with like Searchlight and like FX and what have you, they create a lot of great content. And to have the Fox guy doing the Disney Studio stuff, I'm really encouraged by that. So we'll see how that pans out. But it looks like, this is encouraging. See, here's the thing. Like, a lot of fans kind of get into like the complain routine. What they're focusing on what the problem is, and there's never any talk about how do we fix this stuff. It's just a bunch of complaining on Twitter and things like that. It's important to address the problems, but I'm more solution kind of based. I kind of want to know, okay, we have the problem. Let's focus on fixing it now. Right. So I'm encouraged by this. I'm encouraged by seeing that, look, Iger understands there's a problem. He's fired people, the studio chief. He brought Greenbaum in. He's acknowledging that there's too much content out there. It's watered down. These are good. At least we can see from Bob Iger and the company, they understand there's a problem and they're working towards fixing it. I'm encouraged by that. And
he's setting up the chessboard in the way that he wants to before he ends up leaving the company in 2026. Because we all have to admit the fact, 2026, that's going to be Iger's departure. That's what it is. Sorry, folks. Whether or not you agree with him, he's not leaving anytime soon. He's leaving in 2026. It's just what it is. Greenbaum was placed at the studios on his hand. He brought in Hugh Johnston for CFO.
Right.
Yeah. He's getting all the people set up that when he leaves, then the disaster that came upon the studio in 2020 won't I can't say won't ever happen again because shit happens. Life is a roller coaster ride. You go up and you go down. But it's like at least do the best that you can and work with what you got after his departure from the company.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Slimer?
Well, what I was going to say is by putting David Greenbaum in there and taking Bailey's out, if this was just purely about numbers, then he probably wouldn't have done it because the live action movies for the some of the box office blunders or shortcomings that they've had have overall been more profitable than not. So had this just been about dollar signs and not about the integrity of the Disney Studio brand, then he wouldn't have done this. But I think Bob Iger understands the brand a little bit better than that. I think to say that it's all about money is kind of an insult to Iger. I think he understands the brand very well, and he knows that the standard has dropped a little bit. And that's due to that, the Marvel madness of the last 20 years. But now he's realigning, he's refocusing the brand. He's putting in some key players that are going to be there to take this in a new direction. I believe this is going to be a new direction. I don't think that we're going to see. I don't think we're going to see the studio make $30 billion off of one IP like we did the last 10 years. I don't think that's going to happen with the Marvel brand, like it did with the Marvel brand. So it's really important that they have the studio gets almost like harkens back to what the studio was during the Renaissance and what it was during the 1940s and the 50s, where, like you said, George, if they have one good movie a year, then hey, but the standard's a standard and they're not going to lower for anybody because now that's what the audience is also expecting. That's what they're looking for, being that they've already set that bar, so.
And speaking for the animation side of the studio, I personally feel like of how it should go either, I would say, like, fuse all of the animation together. And when I say that, like, between Walt Disney Animation and Pixar, or let Pixar be Pixar and let Disney Animation be Disney Animation. I feel like with the cross-pollination between, like, the type of animation styles, it's just not working.
Let me ask you this, guys. Do you think that Greenbaum has the chops to bring in a new era of live-action Disney movies? Do you think that's something that Bob Iger is looking at doing?
As far as, I mean, bringing him in from Fox Searchlight, I feel like he has the potential to, because I mean they've produced so many high quality content over there, and he knows that kind of product. And I think that Disney needs to get away from, when they're doing live action, they need to get away from live action remakes of animated fairy tales. Right, they got to get away with it. I want to see original live action content again, like how they did back in the day with 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, The Parent Trap, Swiss Family Robinson. I want to see straight original content.
Yeah, they need to get into that again. They need to get into that original content, and I think this guy's good. I do. I think the Fox people are very competent. They know what they're doing over there. The content over there at FX and Searchlight has been way better than a lot of the Disney stuff, the Disney proper stuff. So I'm encouraged. And Bob Iger said, early on, I think the very first town hall he made when he came back, Iger 2.0, he said, we're going to hold our executives we're going to hold them accountable. The key word going forward is accountability. And I've been kind of disappointed in Iger since he made that comment, because we haven't seen a whole lot of accountability. Right. Kathleen Kennedy is still there. Like, there hasn't been a whole lot of that. I was encouraged when he got let go of Sean Bailey. Obviously, I don't like to see anyone lose their job, but clearly Bailey has been a problem. The live action stuff has been not great, quality wise. I was encouraged that the accountability train, actually made a stop at Sean Bailey's office, and they're making moves to fix this stuff. If you have all the same people in there, nothing's ever going to change. You got to shake shit up a little bit, So I'm encouraged by it. We'll see. I feel like we're kind of starting to kind of get out of this rut a little bit. It's going to take time, though. Fans have to be patient, because these movies, there's a lag, like the movies that you see today are really a product of like 3 years ago. Right. So we're not going to know the fruits of this, these changes for a while, probably 2027, 2028 even, So we'll see. But fellas, it was an honor talking shop with you guys. Really, really good conversation. We dipped into theme parks. We dipped into studio. Really, really fun time. Slimer, I will start with you, sir. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Yeah, hey OG, thanks for having me back on. It was a pleasure chatting Disney with you guys. You guys can catch me on X at SlimesCore84, and you can catch me right here on YouTube at OrangeGrow55.
55. And right over here, we got the Italiana, the with the Joe Pesci of Disney YouTube, the Italiana. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. But before I do, really quick, during the time of this recording, it is March 6th. I just have to make a little fun fact, today in Disney history, that my all-time favorite song, Disney song, I should say, "A Whole New World," actually hit the top charts of #1 on the Billboard's 100, and stayed there all the way. The only song that ever achieved this notion up until 2022, until We Don't Talk About Bruno from Encanto, but it was the original "A Whole New World" of the single hit by Peebo Bryson and Regina Bell that played at the end credits. So I just had to throw that out there because that "A Whole New World" is my all-time favorite Disney song. So.
It's so funny. George always brings in this like tidbits of information that you never know he would ever know. Yeah. Like, how do you know that? Like the day that it hit the Billboard 100. That's amazing. You blew my mind. We did a Story Geeks with Jay a few months ago, and when you busted out like the first and last name of the editor of Jaws. I was like, how does George know this? Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I am full of surprises.
You are. Now, Whole New World was actually dethroned by Bruno?
It was the only Disney animated song that hit the top Billboard 100 up until We Don't Talk About Bruno.
Yeah, and that surprises me. And not because Bruno's not a great song. Encanto has really good music. It really does. It's a beautiful movie. But I feel like when it comes to the songs that really resonate the most, they work in the movie, but then you can also utilize it in like your personal experiences, right? Like, for example, like a song like Let It Go is like an empowerment song. Like it can mean like, hey, I got a new job. I'm letting my old job go. I'm in a new relationship. I'm letting my ex relationship go. There's meanings that you can kind of incorporate into your personal life. Whole New World is another one. I'm starting a new job. It's a whole new world. I'm starting a new relationship. It's a whole new world. So they have like this. It works in the movie, but it also works as a deep meaning for someone in their personal life. Where Bruno is so about the movie. Right. Like that doesn't relate to you in any other way but the movie. That's why I'm not that it's a bad song. I'm just surprised because of that. It's gone as high as it has, but
the only way that someone would ever have that kind of connection in real life is if they had a family member that they exiled out of their life and their name was Bruno. That's
and that they don't talk about. Exactly.
But anyways, thank you for listening to that fun fact from the Italiano here. But anyways, if you'd like to find me on social media, you could do so on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There he is, Mr. Sticky Icky. And thank you all so much for watching. Comment down below with all your thoughts on everything we talked about today. Theme parks, Star Tours, studio, anything you want to discuss down below in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching.
Hold on. Before you're done, we got to go ahead and just stay tuned, everybody. Just keep on watching. We got a little sponsor at the end.
We do. Now, a word from our sponsor up next.